Hello, welcome back to Talking Tunes, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. It's not an album review, it's not an album ranking video, it's not talking about a genre of music that I hate and I think should die. We're talking about the current state of rock and roll. Specifically, is rock dead? A question that is asked at least once a decade. Now, in terms of a live performance standpoint, absolutely not. There's plenty of bands currently touring out there. Some of them are legacy artists, some of them are new bands, such as Greta Van Fleet. Legacy bands are, people like, Yes is still currently on tour. Look at that. And there's plenty of original bands that are out there. And in terms of live performance, I don't necessarily think rock will ever die. And culturally, rock isn't fully dead. But it seems to be only music produced before 1995. Which I'm not gonna complain about. Because, frankly, the mid-90s is when everything started, going a little bit shit. But, yeah. But in terms of new artists releasing an album and it going multiple times platinum and having many big hits to the songs being inescapable, yeah, it feels good. New rock is gone, in my opinion. Do I necessarily think that'll be the case forever? Well, there's always some doubt as to whether rock will die this decade. Hell, back in the 40s and 50s, it was thought that rock and roll was just going to be some fad that would go away after a couple of years, and then soon everybody would be back to that civilized classical jazz. But of course that didn't happen. Rock and roll went on strong until the 2000s. And the 2000s, in my opinion, is where rock slowly started losing that edge. Because rock had been the dominant genre for so long, it suddenly became safe for channels like Disney and Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network to center entire shows around them. And as a result, rock began to lose that sort of rebellious spirit. New rock certainly started to lose that rebellious spirit. Does that necessarily mean everything produced in rock and roll after the year 2000 was terrible? Hell no. Nickelback at the time was pretty much the biggest band in the world. They were the Led Zeppelin of their day. I'm not comparing them to Led Zeppelin on a sonic level or a quality level. Just in terms of pure popularity, you have a direct comparison. The more than likely most popular decade of the 70s and the most popular act of the 2000s. But Nickelback have kind of made the same album 10 times. Now, in my opinion, and who is their direct competitor? Well, in my opinion, Nickelback's direct competitor is Shinedown, and Shinedown are still around. And in 2021, they produced one of the best albums I've heard in a very long time. That being said, and I will review that album come September. That being said, I don't remember anybody talking about it, and when they did talk about it, they were just kind of like, it's alright, even though I think that album is amazing. But, yeah, in terms of new rock acts making a big cultural impact whenever they release something, I don't think that's going to come back anytime soon. And I think this also coincides with pretty much the death of the album. For the last at least 15 years, although probably earlier, basically since the inception of Napster. Now, I'm going to get into this. The structure of this video is very disjointed. But for decades, the way people consumed music was going to the record store, picking up a vinyl record or a CD, and listening to it all the way through, right? From front to back. And because you had to pay money for those albums, depending on your economic state, it was likely going to be a while until you bought another one. So you had an incentive to listen to the albums that you bought with your money over and over and over again and become familiar with them. But then, in 1998, this thing called Napster came around, which allowed you to download any song off of the internet that you wanted completely for free. It would take several hours, but people were willing to wait those several hours just to hear Green Day's latest single. Don't know why you'd wait hours to hear Green Day, but that's besides the point. But Napster pretty much destroyed people's internal value of music. And maybe it was overvalued before. But in my opinion, music has gone from being overvalued to undervalued. It's just taken for granted. It's just kind of there. And that might explain why in the last 15 years that album has pretty much died. You know? Do I think that will remain the case forever? No. And for one specific reason. Gen Z. Gen Z was the first generation born with the internet. The internet was invented in 1989. Gen Z doesn't start until 1996, 1997. So we've had access to the internet our whole lives. And we've seen the damage that can do to people. And so I think when Gen Z comes around, maybe we'll teach our kids to value music again. And we'll have a thriving music genre once again. But for now, I guess we're just kind of stuck with formless blobs of bleh for music for the most part. But, yeah, that's going to do it. Thank you all very much for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that bullshit. If you want to hear me talk about something other than music, I have a podcast with two of my buddies. It's called Dorkies. I will leave a link to the most recent episode of that in the description down below. And if you want to hear what I happen to be listening to that day, or a 15-second segment at least, you can follow me on Instagram and I will link that in the description down below. And with that, I would like to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.